to WRPB and WRPB Studios. With me is probably one of the most professional attorneys I've ever met, and who's become a friend over the time that I've been working with him. With me is Travis Hartwalker. Hey, Travis.
Thank you, Wayne. Thank you for the kind words. Appreciate it.
Okay, so I've been in real estate like 30-something years, and my opinion is you should always use a realtor to buy or sell your home,
Okay.
and you should always use an attorney to do your paperwork to keep you from getting into trouble.
Correct.
Why in the state of, like, I was from Jersey doing a lot of real estate, and they made you use an attorney. Why in Florida do we not kind of push people to use an attorney to do their real estate transactions?
Well, you know, there's a number of title insurance agencies that are good, and they insure the title, and so I think that's helpful for if you find issues on the back end. But one of the things that attorneys help with is helping with issues and making sure and being predictive that something else isn't going to happen down in the future. For instance, recently yesterday I had someone call with regards to a septic system that wasn't disclosed through the process, and so now they're having to rework the entire property because of the issues regarding that septic system that they didn't anticipate. And so, you know, being an attorney, you can look for those issues and be in front of them so that you can prevent those type of issues, including contractual issues, and making sure that everything's buttoned up and taken care of, especially on the commercial side when you're talking about very large values, which I know you're familiar with.
Right.
But then also the residential as well.
Well, you know, when you talk about commercial and the large values, I get it. But when you talk about someone's resident, that's their home.
Yeah.
Okay? So if you're not protected and something goes wrong and you're already in this home, what do you do? Do you go stay at a hotel? I mean, what do you do?
It's a very challenging, difficult situation. We call them Johnson versus Davis cases. It's basically where, especially if there's a defect that wasn't disclosed at the closing by the seller, and then the buyer finds out about it later, whether it's termite damage or the septic system or mold and water damage, then you got to go chase after the seller on the back end, which is a very difficult situation. So, you know, you have to make sure that I mean, some people try and live in the property during the time, and some people, you know, do have to go live in a hotel, and then you have all kinds of damages. So it's something to be in front of for sure.
You know, in today's market, it's really kind of interesting because many, many, many homes are being sold with no contingencies.
Yeah.
Okay? So what do you do if there's something major? So, look, I believe that attorneys wrote the realtor contracts.
Yep, the FAR contracts, yep.
And I'm not, look, I was in commercial real estate. I rented the space. It was like a 30-page lease agreement.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
It was, honestly, it was ridiculous. In my opinion,
Sure.
all of it didn't need to be, every piece was spread out. It didn't need to be. I think, I'm not an attorney, but I think things could have been consolidated and still had the protection that I needed.
Sure.
Because every case in law, in my opinion, even though you go back to other cases, is kind of like a snowflake.
Sure.
And if the attorney did the contract, you have somebody to talk to figure out what the recourse could be.
Correct.
Okay? When you have a contract from a title company or whatever, it's very hard to, because who are you going to go after? The title company? The other realtor? Okay? So I found that to be very difficult working in the state of Florida.
Yeah.
And as a realtor, you know, we work hard to get our licenses, to take the test. Look, when I took my test in Jersey 35 years ago,
Right.
I was able to breeze through it.
Yeah.
When I took it here in Florida, I'm older, can't remember nothing, and it was really hard for me to pass that test. And it took me, I passed on the third time.
Wow.
And I only had 5 days left to take the test before I'd have to take the course again.
Oh my gosh.
Right, because I procrastinated. Because
Oh, no.
I have other things I'm doing, and I have my other businesses.
Yeah.
But for me, I want to be able to sell a property, have an attorney draw up the contract, but not negotiate the contract. I don't want them to do the dealings within the contract.
Yeah.
I just want to keep side A safe and side B safe.
Yes.
And more important than any of those guys, side me
Yes.
safe.
Yes.
Is it, I mean, if you do a contract, I mean, nothing's perfect. We
Sure.
already know that.
Of course.
How hard is it to, because you're in the industry, to argue in court a contract that a realtor did that is standard practice for the Real Estate Association as compared to a contract that an attorney did?
Well, I mean, you make sure that whatever, like you said, it's a snowflake to a certain extent. So you want to make sure that those individual instances and circumstances are well established and developed in the contract so that those issues aren't taken care of. Especially when it comes to additional clauses in those, what we call them FAR bar, real estate, Florida Association of Realtors and Florida bar contracts. Additional clauses can be built in there, and then you get into a real situation where have those been drafted properly? Are they ambiguous? Do they enforce? Are they enforceable? And those are all things that we can help with to make sure you're taken care of. And then the contingencies, like you said, when we're dealing with a lot of as-is transactions and cash transactions, there's not a lot of contingencies. And then, these buyers, and I've had a few of them come into the office and, they're getting backed up into the corner, especially, with builder contracts that they really feel like they're stuck. And so now we're trying to, help them understand, the contingencies and what options they have to make sure that they get what they bargained for.
So let's take the forward contract that the realtors use.
Mm-hmm.
It's a gazillion pages, and yet there's still stuff that's missing.
Of course, yeah.
Okay, so who is now going to write those pieces in?
Yeah.
The realtor?
I mean, I think that realtors, wise realtors, and there's a lot of very wise realtors and a lot of very good realtors, and I definitely recommend people use realtors. We'll make an attempt to draft that language just to try to keep things going and not to, lose the deal possibly. But in the end, that may be a mistake because, a realtor drafting legal contractual language may put themselves into a practice, illegal practice of law, but then also put their clients into, and more importantly, put their clients into a situation where they may not be enforced or they're going to have issues later on.
Guys, like I said, I've been in real estate for 35 years. I have never, ever had an issue with any contract that fell back to me when an attorney drew the deal.
Gotcha.
And that is a blessing. So everybody, I think you need to use a professional in everything that you do. And I always say use a professional. And if you have an issue with a contract from the Realtors Association, and I'm not saying it's bad, but who do you go talk to? If you have an issue and it was reviewed by an attorney, then you can always go talk to your attorney. Always use a professional. It's worth every penny. Travis, I want to thank you for coming on.
It's good seeing you again.
Everybody, will be right back.
Thank you.